Hi, and welcome to another episode of A Gay in the Life. I'm Blake.
I'm Garrett, and this week's guest is Sam Pirie.
And he's coming to us from Scotland. Hi, Sam. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Good. I don't think I've ever been to Scotland. My only perceptions of Scotland are like Braveheart.
Yeah, that's fair. That's the majority of people. It's Braveheart and Shrek. So that's fair.
Braveheart and Shrek.
If it's not Scottish, it's crap!
What's really exciting about Scotland, though, is like such a progressive attitude has been taken towards the LGBT community within that country.
Oh, definitely. And it all happened like quite recently as well. Scotland was actually not very progressive to begin with. In 1988, they enforced a bunch of legislation that made it illegal to promote homosexuality, which is very vague wording, but that was the point. It was meant to be vague so that they could say, oh no, you're promoting homosexuality, not allowed. But yeah, from like the year 2000 onwards, things just kept going up and up. Scotland was actually the first place in the United Kingdom to repeal that in the year 2000. 2010, this was UK-wide, they introduced the Equality Act, which meant that it was now illegal to discriminate against anyone based on their sexual orientation. And then 2014, they made gay marriage legal, which was amazing. 2018, they announced that they're going to have inclusive LGBT education in schools, which is awesome, which basically means that it's now one of the first countries in the world to have this inclusive education, which is so awesome. So we've done well.
Looks like Scotland kind of put all these regulations, into action pretty quickly in a short span of time, and that's great. But usually, socially, it takes people a little bit longer to catch up and to progress that way. So what's your experience been with that?
There are so many elements of just like toxic masculinity and homophobia, just like in lots of different places. Scotland's a very big football culture. And whilst that's amazing and like it brings in so much for so many people, it's like notoriously homophobic and transphobic. I think it was like Stonewall UK did a survey, and they found out like 4 years ago that 73% of footballers and people who watch football had heard homophobic language, and 1 in 5 kids who watch football would be ashamed, that's the word they used, ashamed, if they found out their favorite footballer was gay.
Wow.
And that hostility and that language, especially around gay people, existed in school. Gay was an insult growing up. Like I even used it, like I'll own up to that, because everyone did. And it was just like, oh man, don't do that. That's so gay. That's gay to do this if it's bad. And it's like, which is like a ridiculous insult anyway. But obviously it's like, in our minds, the worst thing someone could be was gay. And assigning that word to like negativity just does like mess with you, really, especially when you're having to come to terms with it yourself. And a lot of people would come to me, and the worst thing, oh my gosh, anytime I went anywhere, the thing I would always fear being asked by a new person was, can I ask you something? You have to promise not to get mad. I know you're going to ask me if I'm gay. I know that's what that means. I would always go, no, I'm not, because I would not want to be. Like, this was when I was like 13 to like 18. I was like, no, and I didn't have time to think it myself, because of course not, because even as they say, it's like they're asking me, I promise not to get mad, because like they know it's a bad thing they're asking if I'm gay. And so when I was coming to terms with it myself, it was very upsetting, because it was like all these years, like all these people have been saying to me, like, are you gay? We think you're gay, blah, 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 and I've denied it, and now, like, it turns out they might have been right the whole time. And that's upsetting, because I had to come to realize that what it means to be gay is so much more than this negative thing that they assign to it. But now it's like, it's great. I'm happy to be gay. So it's like,
Did you have, growing up, any people you looked up to in the LGBT community? And even more specifically, was there any Scottish icons that maybe people in America or around the world might not know about?
I was a massive Doctor Who fan, and John Barrowman is Captain Jack on that, and his character is like pansexual, and I didn't think at the time like this is really impactful and this is something that I'm looking up to. I just thought, I was like, oh, he's really cool because he has like a gun and he's just like whatever, but actually I have so much respect for him.
If we drive about an hour north of here, Ventura County, they have a Scottish festival every year where the men have to carry giant logs and rocks and throw them as far as they can. And that's kind of, that's the contest. It's a contest of strength and kind of masculinity in general. So how have you experienced that, in Scotland?
What you're talking about is like the Highland Games, which is purely like strength, and it's epic and it's like awesome, it's our culture. But I just find it so strange that like we put so much emphasis on being men have to be the strongest and the most like roughest, but you have to do it while wearing a skirt. Like, but that's fine. Also, if you call it a skirt, you get in a lot of trouble. It's not a skirt; it's a kilt, and it is.
Oh yeah.
And it is. But at the same time, why does it matter? Like, if a guy wore like an actual like skirt, why would you be mad about it? But because what I believe is to be like a lot of misogyny and toxic masculinity, and of just men are the big, strong, women are the weaker. I think as well we have a massive issue with like transphobia as well in Scotland, and I think that's also part to do with it. There's been so many instances of just like horrible like attacks on transgender people. Even people like government have said horrible things about the transgender community. It just seems to be like a constant recurring thing of it can all kind of be boiled down to this idea that the men are strong and the women are weak.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't start changing the social structures of the way people speak, then how are you supposed to expect anyone to respect anyone from a different point of view?
Yeah.
And if you're using a word that is very closely identified with a group of people and they're telling you that what you're saying is hate speech, then just listen and use a different word in place of that one.
Especially so many young like Scots grow up watching football. It's like part of the culture, and that's great. But what's not great is watching and seeing this language and this homophobia and this just like horribleness, because that's what they're going to grow up to, and they're going to be the next footballers, and that's what they're going to do. So you have to cut it off somewhere, and we're going to start that now. That's what we have to do it now.
There's still a lot of work to be done, even after, even if this was a perfect world and all the laws were, passed in favor of making everyone absolutely equal. I mean, there'd still be prejudices within every individual, and those are the type of things that we have to tackle too.
Thank you for joining us this week, Sam.
Hopefully we can let people know a little bit more what it's like to be queer in Scotland.
See you next week.